Welcome back, everyone, to episode 72 of the Minot Business Podcast, presented by Bennett Creative Media. I'm your host, Easton Bennett, and on the show today, we have Nic Marshall. Nic, it's good to have you on the show.
Definitely.
Before we get started, if you have not already, please rate and review the show. It only takes 5 seconds to leave us a rating and a review, and it really helps spread the word to new audiences and attract new guests for you guys each and every week. Nic and I were talking a little bit aviation before this. I learned that he can operate a plane. So that was exciting. We were kind of joking that next week's episode we'll talk about aviation. But this week, for the people that don't know, Nic, what do you do if you had to give them an elevator pitch?
Elevator pitch on Slideshow is basically we do a lot of commercial photography, which commercial photography is more of business to business or business to consumer. So it's more advertising, restaurants, and like right now I'm doing a project for a CrossFit gym. It's not your weddings, family portraits, that end of things.
Have you ever shot a wedding before?
I've helped out on them.
Okay. Are you a fan?
No.
I've shot like 3 weddings video wise, and I messed up every single one. So now I have people reach out and they're like, "Hey, do you shoot weddings?" I'm like, "No, I don't." No, for good reason.
There's a definite art form to it. I like more the projects where I'm concepting with someone and then working to build, a vision and make something with it might just be myself and the client if it's something as simple as headshots or something like that, or when you're working on a larger project, when you're concepting something, and it might be something as complex as building a whole set and then bringing in talent and then bringing in hair and makeup and wardrobe and everything else, and building this whole vision that you and a team of creatives work on is what I truly love.
Yeah. So let's go start at the very beginning. Slideshow Creative. First off, how did you get into photography? How did you get into the whole creative space?
Okay. So I'm originally from Minneapolis, born and raised down there. And I started photography when I was a kid. Like my parents bought me this little point and shoot camera, yellow plastic with a little black slide, and it had a little wheel on the back that you'd use to advance the actual film in the camera. And then
take those on field trips when I was in
exactly.
school. Yeah.
Everybody had I guess everybody of a certain age had those.
Yeah.
But, damn near disposable, cheap. And that's how I got into it. And then junior high, started working in the darkroom, shooting a lot of black and white. Did that all the way through high school, and then was approaching college. And I was like, well, trying to figure out what I wanted to do for college. And I loved photography. It's, what I did all the time in high school. And it's like, okay, well, I got to go to school for something. I was kind of flipping through magazines and everything else. And I realized, somebody's got to get paid to take all these.
Yep.
This has to come from somewhere. So I started looking at different schools and different art schools, and ended up going from there to the Milwaukee College of Art and Design for a year, and then transferred to the Minneapolis College of Art and Design. Graduated from there. And while I was still going to school there, I started working what they call assisting for other photographers, where they have a lead photographer, but then you're there helping set up lighting, backgrounds, getting lunch, doing whatever. But you get to learn from the guys who have been doing it for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and get a lot of firsthand experience, which is amazing. Like you learn more in 6 months of that than you do in 4 months of school.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat. So that was kind of the beginning, and everything was film and slide film, which there was no fix it later, do it later. Oh, I can put that in post or blah, blah, blah. It's like you either had or you didn't.
You get it right on the spot. Is that nerve wracking? Because I've only lived in the digital age where you film something and now Photoshop, you can remove something off the wall.
It wasn't too bad. Like you'd shoot Polaroids for the test for your exposures and stuff like that. And then with slide film is what you shot. You want your exposure like within a tenth, the max a third, because you can push or pull it a little bit chemically.
Okay.
But it wasn't too bad because you kind of figured out what you had from your Polaroids, and then you had to kind of trust your process and go from there. And then it was also kind of nice because you didn't have the distraction of, you shot a couple of frames, then, the client wants to stop and look at it. Oh, you shot, and it's like you were able to settle more into a rhythm and go through things and work through things and feel them out a lot more naturally without the interruptions of constantly going back.
Okay.
So
then the film aspect of things, in this now in the digital age, you can spray and pray. I think a lot of people just like spray and pray.
Yeah.
What was it like when, you have a limited number of shots on a film roll?
Yeah.
Is you like one in the chamber?
Yeah.
You're like,
so I shot a lot. I would either have 2 35 millimeter bodies.
Okay.
So I would be shooting with one. And then once that ran out, I'd be able to, if I needed to switch quickly, I'd hand that off to an assistant and have them swap out the roll.
Yeah.
Or if I was shooting medium formats, I would have multiple backs for it because you'd have a film back that's removable.
Yep.
So you could take that off and hand it off to somebody else, and they would be reloading the back while you'd be shooting on the other one.
Okay.
So that worked to help kind of keep the flow of everything going.
Yeah.
And if you did have multiple bodies, it would also be nice to be able to, run color in one and black and white in the other.
I suppose you got to decide.
Yeah. It's a creative choice where it's like, if you shoot everything in black and white, it ain't going to be in color.
Yeah.
Like, there's no
just pulling the saturation down after the fact.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Which for me, it was an awesome way to learn.
Yeah. So darkroom, then I didn't take any photography classes, nothing in high school. So chemically, you just put it in a darkroom and then you're messing around with chemicals?
Chemically, black and white, take the film, you're in a dark bag or in an absolute black room, and you load it into the canister, and then you run it through the chemical process in there.
Okay.
And then you got to take it out, wash it, and let it dry. And then after that, then you could go into the dark room where you had your projector, and in there's red lights, which won't affect the photo paper or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd run your exposure down onto your papers, do your test strips, and then you'd run it through a chemical bath, which was a 3-step process, I believe.
Okay.
And then you kind of pick your exposure from there, like how many seconds you wanted to expose your paper for.
That's what I was gonna ask. How do you get the exposure? That's what you do. You just pick how long it's in there.
Yep. You take in like, all right, I'm gonna go. I'll cover up like if it's a 8x10 sheet, you cover up like the first quarter of it, and you let that run for 5 seconds, and then you move it, and then you do another one for like 5 seconds, and so that you have these increments, and then you run that through your chemical bath, and you're like, all right, well, it looks like it's probably somewhere around a 5-second exposure on the paper. So then you do a full one at 5 seconds. You're like, okay, well, that's good. But, her face is going a little bit dark. But I kind of like where the rest of it is. So during this exposure, I'm going to let it go for a couple of seconds. Then I'm going to take this little thing and I'm going to kind of block the light and you kind of feather it over that, kind of block the light so you don't hit the face with as much light as you would the rest. It's kind of like in Photoshop, if you set up a mask around somebody's face and then you bring up the values or bring down the values. Okay. That's where the whole like dodging and burning comes from.
So that's what it is. That's where dodging and burning came from.
Or burning in an area.
See, like I'm learning a lot here in darkrooms.
Yeah. So if you wanted to burn something in, you'd have like a piece of cardboard or paper or whatever you could get your hands on. You cut a hole out in it to whatever size kind of would fit. You start your exposure and you kind of move it around to let the light move around. So it kind of feathered the edges of it.
Okay.
So that area would be darker and then the other areas would be higher. And like the whole darkroom experience was a complete fine art after shooting.
Yeah, I was going to say that seems like a whole process.
Yeah, because if you shoot, you know what it's like to shoot raw footage.
Yeah.
Or C-log. Mm-hmm. It comes in and it's bland and it's flat and the color is dull and crap. Yeah. And then you start building and adding everything on after that. So it's people are like, well, it's cheating if it's digital and you bring it into Photoshop and do all this. It's like, no, you're doing the same thing. You're just doing it a different way.
Yeah. Okay. And now people edit on Lightroom.
Yeah.
Darkroom to Lightroom. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So when you first started Slideshow Creative then, were you going through that process or were you digital from the start?
So I was digital.
Okay. So what was that transition like? When did you move to digital?
Back in the cities, probably 2005-ish.
Okay.
2006. And that's when I kind of went out on my own in the cities. I had Marshall Photography back then. Mm-hmm. Obviously, last name's Marshall, not super creative. And in the cities, I did a lot of work for Target and Best Buy and different magazines. What's a big food manufacturer down there? Oh, General Mills.
Okay, yeah.
Like
cereal.
And then a lot of cereal, tons of stuff. And then Minneapolis at the time was about the 4th largest advertising community in the U.S.
Okay.
So they had tons of agencies down there.
Really?
Yeah. So it was an awesome environment to be working as a photographer, especially during that time. And then Target was absolutely huge too for the creative community. There's so much work that they just pump out. And then that's when I had that. Everything was good. Did tons of people work, tons of lifestyle work.
Yeah. What was it like breaking into the industry? You obviously, you graduate and you're like, okay, I want to go into photo, be a freelancer. What was the break-in like? It
wasn't too bad in ways. Like I started out doing a lot of assisting for other photographers.
Okay.
Working with all people that I respected and really liked their work and that were doing things that I was like, okay, that's cool. And I was lucky to have really awesome mentors. One of the guys that I started with, Jake Armour, he's still a friend of these days. Amazing photographer. He did a lot of product work, a lot of people work. I think the last 2 album covers for Prince.
Oh, really?
Before he died.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So super cool guy, like incredibly talented, creatively, business, everything. Like,
so how are you meeting these mentors? How did you meet him?
Called him. Like started like there's in the cities, there's ASMP, which is a network for photographers and media professionals, and started working with ASMP, kind of looking at lists that they had and then talking to other assistants about different photographers and like just finding people and looking at their websites, looking at their work wherever I could.
Yeah.
And then I just cold call them and be like, hey, can I come meet with you?
Yeah.
I want to assist for you. Like, here's my portfolio. This is stuff I've been working on. This is what I've been doing. I would love to work for you.
I like that.
And then just keep on coming back and calling them.
I think people are nervous to get on the phone and do that now.
Yeah.
More so than, back then.
Probably.
Because I mean, even me, like, I don't really love calling people all that much.
Yeah.
When I was growing up and, you're with your friends or something, you're ordering a pizza.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, I'm not ordering it. I'm not calling. So then, someone has to call.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's moving into the area where less people like to actually call, but it is a good way to get your foot in the door for sure.
Oh yeah. And it's just, my dad, he was in sales his whole life. And one of the things that he always said was the worst thing that they can tell you is no. And there's a lot worse things than that.
Yeah. If you get used to the no, it's fine.
And you just, no, we don't need anybody this week. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Come back 2 weeks later. Hey, you guys looking for anybody? And then eventually their regular guy would be sick or booked on a different project or something else. And they'd be like, well, shit, this guy keeps on hounding us. Let's give him a try.
It's all about the timing, the opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's why you can't burn bridges. So, okay. So you're in there, you're in the freelance world in Minneapolis. What do the next steps look like? Because obviously you're in Minot now and you have Slideshow Creative. How do we get there?
So that's where things kind of go a little goofy.
Okay.
So in Minneapolis, things are going pretty good. And then there is what they called like the Great Recession, housing recession in Minneapolis. Well, not in Minneapolis, the whole country for the most part. And that hit the creative industry super hard. And advertising agencies were laying off whole floors of people, just completely wiping it out. And then at the same time, Target pulls most of their freelance photography into an inside studio.
Oh,
so a lot of that stops going out to everybody else.
Yeah.
So the amount of work out there is a lot less, and I'm still a lot newer. And than the guys I've been doing it, 20, 30, 40 years and established. So there's a lot less work out there. And, I hung on for a while, and then around this same time, me and Krista, my wife, met and got married and had a son. And her parents approached us about moving up here and running the truck stop and doing all that. And we decided to try a different adventure and came up here and started doing that. And we've gotten to a point with the truck stop now where, we still dedicate a lot of our time to it, but I was able to kind of diversify and start up Slideshow.
Yeah.
And Slideshow came from us kind of wanting to do more with the truck stop and more to promote the truck stop and the Fast Lane and Ernest Academy. So we're like, well, we want to be doing this. And then it's like, well, I can do a lot of that. And then we were like, well, it'd be fun to get back into this and start doing everything. We have this other space that we can set up and start using as a studio. So now we have a 30 by 30 studio that we're able to shoot out of and, have different backgrounds. And if we need to be, build sets. And
so did you always have it in your back pocket that like, I got some skills in photography. I can get us some marketing here.
there was a while there. There was a period there where I'll be honest, like I was burnt out. Like I tried to hang on for so long after things dried up in the cities. Like,
okay.
Probably should have said that.
You're good.
That's what editing's for, right?
Exactly. Oh, you got a flip phone. Look at that.
Yeah, it's so nice because it fits in your pocket.
Yeah, the phones are getting bigger and bigger, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's nice for that. But yeah, so I was kind of burnt out a bit, and I took a period of time off where I really didn't shoot much at all. I didn't really keep up on things. I didn't keep up on Photoshop. So as I started getting back into it, it's like, okay, well, turns out they changed a lot in Photoshop in 10 years.
Yeah,
like they didn't leave it the same. There was a couple updates that I missed.
Yeah.
So, I went and spent a lot of time working in it and took a lot of time to go through, different Photoshop classes and retouching classes and everything else and work through them all. So I knew what I was doing and how to, use the new tools that were available to me. And, it's amazing because now I can do in a matter of minutes what would have taken hours before to do.
Yeah.
It's just phenomenal in a lot of ways, because I can get the same result or better in like a fraction of the time.
Yeah. It's crazy where Photoshop and Lightroom have gotten to in the last 3-4 years. I'm not a photographer, but even if I have to quickly edit something, it's crazy how fast it actually is.
Yeah. It's just in the amount of control and the different,
the
amount of resources.
Selecting someone's nose and you're like, oh, their nose is purple now. It's like, oh, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy how you do that. Yeah. So then, you got Slideshow Creative up and running. You're helping businesses out. Your Facebook says, we help businesses get social.
Yep.
Where did that come about, and why did you want to move into the world of helping businesses get online?
So getting online is one of the most basic things that I think any business has to do. You have to have some sort of online presence. Yeah. If, I'm sure there are some different businesses that anybody could argue that you could get away with not having it, but having a professional image online is huge. If you only just have a Facebook page for your business or Instagram, if you don't have a full-fledged website, it's still incredibly important to present yourself as, we are a legitimate business. Yeah. And if it's, even if you're not using photography or video, if it's just good design and good presentation, it makes a huge difference when you look at it. If you go on there and it looks janky, people are being like,
You see some of the one-page websites from like 1998. Yeah. It's like you got navigation on the left, a story in the middle, and then that's it.
There you go.
Yeah. But I mean, it is awesome to get online if you're a client for sure.
Yeah. Be able to go online and have something that somebody can see and be like, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Or they see something as they're going through and it intrigues them and it brings them in and it brings that extra level.
Mm-hmm. The one thing I've noticed about your content, so I did some creeping on you on Facebook before this, is one, there's a ton of photographers out there. Like, how do you differentiate yourself? I'm sure that's a question you've thought about, but a lot of your photos, it feels like you're in the photo.
Yeah.
One, because, you can take a headshot, stand up against a wall, snap a headshot, little head tilt, whatever you do, right? But it reminds me of, I don't know if you know who Peter McKinnon is. Peter McKinnon is a photographer in Toronto, and he started this series about, he had this red couch.
Yeah.
So he would go to people's jobs. So let's say it's a firefighter, and he would put the red couch in the scene. So it's like, okay, maybe he's carrying the hose, but the hose is actually the cushion of the couch, whatever it might be. Or he'd go to a paramedic. So
becomes a character in the story.
Exactly. And that's kind of what reminded me about your photos, is that it always feels like I'm in the image.
Yeah.
I saw the atypical photo shoot, and it looks super cool. And then the other aspect that you added to it is you tell the story in the caption.
Yeah.
Is that something that you actually thought about doing, or was that organic that just came about on how you want to tell these stories?
So that project, and like, I don't know, when I do projects like that, and that's kind of been a separate one with, guys from Atypical, and then Bryce over at Service Valley CrossFit, and then most recently Walter Peel. It's
Oh, he's the painter, right?
Yeah.
See, that one was awesome too.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like I'm in this guy's studio.
Yeah. I want you to have some kind of reaction when you look at it, like feeling like you're in it, or some kind of emotion, or some kind of something, and the idea kind of came to me as, for that project. It's like, okay, I was looking to do something. I love photographing people.
Yeah.
I love doing portraits and the conversations. And then it's kind of like, God, what should I do? And I should figure out something. And then somehow I was just thinking about it. I was like, God, if you find people and you talk to them about what they're passionate about and what they love doing, like it brings a whole different aspect to their whole personality and the conversation that you're having with them. Like people light up in a way and they become more energetic in a way and they bring you into kind of their world. And it's a great place to have a conversation. And I wanted to bring that along with the image because I feel like one kind of helps inform the other.
Yeah. So, instead of just the image here, and it's like, okay, I got to draw some inferences. But if you're telling a story about what the image is, they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So that's, one thing I preach to a lot of my clients is that storytelling. When you're creating these photos or you're creating videos, you want to tell some sort of story. What do you think the importance of storytelling with images is?
Oh, it's massive. It's massive. To be able to tell a story or invoke an emotion with an image or a video or a painting is one of the most basic and fundamental like things in my mind of what makes something fall more into the category of art.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have that relationship with what it is, it's just, I don't know. It's just some of it. Then it's just purely maybe commercial, or I don't really.
Then
know.
It feels almost like it's like you're just pushing people through, right?
Yeah.
It just turns into like this never-ending cycle.
Yeah, it's just
It's like, okay, got another project done, on to the next one.
Yeah.
Almost like you're a cashier at a grocery store.
Yeah.
Scan one item, move on to the next.
Yep.
Because I really like the thought process that you put into each of your different projects. And we're going to go into that a little bit, but before we're going to hear about this week's sponsor, Midco. Is your business moving up and to the right? Put Midco's business technology to work for you so you never have a slow day at the office. From premium internet and phone plans to custom private networking and advertising, they have a solution for every type of business, large or small. Get paired with an account representative to create your suite of services and make the switch with ease with dedicated business client fulfillment and support teams. No data caps, flexible contracts with month-to-month or long-term options, built-in DDoS protection, and more. Explore services and request a free consultation at midco.com/business today. I've been a Midco user ever since I started my business. I've loved it ever since. So if you guys are looking to check that out, go to midco.com/business today. Okay, Nick, so let's hop back into the questions here. One specific question I have for you. How do you make sure that you're differentiating each project with a specific client? So do you go through a creative process? What does that look like?
So how do I differentiate like one client project from a different client project?
Yeah, like the customized shoots, right? So even, headshots, obviously you're not taking the same headshots for every project.
Yep. A lot of it's talking to the client and seeing kind of what they want and where they are. And, it's up here with it, me being more direct to business versus direct to agency. Agencies is what, usually approach you with, okay, this is kind of the look that we're going for you.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot more mood boards or stuff like that. So talking to, not most recently, but one of the last ones that I did was for the Aero Center. And it was just, some pretty straightforward headshots, and they wanted something that was clean and bright and consistent.
What is the difference, coming here, you have agencies, or you don't have agencies coming from the agencies. Is that way different with the client? Way
different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because a lot of times with agencies, you would work, there would be somebody that an art buyer would be the one to kind of hire you and give you, that you'd work out budget with. And then from there, you'd work with the creative director or whoever was the art director on the shoot. And they're the ones that would kind of bring you the concept and then the look. And then from there, you'd pull in your team of hair, makeup, wardrobe stylists, set builders, whatever you needed. So there's kind of a much broader team and scope. And a lot of the things I've been doing here have been more me directly interacting with the businesses, which has been a lot of fun.
Is it better that way?
In ways it is, because you're working directly with the people and you can have all those conversations up front and be like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And just kind of work through all of it.
Yeah.
Which is really fun.
Okay.
the scope of some of this ad work is really fun when you're working on the bigger stuff and you have the larger budget and you can, build big sets and bring talent in from New York and blah, 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 blah.
I suppose it's different
a lot of fun.
Working, for Target when they are flying people in compared to, a coffee shop down the road or whatever it might be.
Yeah. When you have a $50,000 to $75,000 budget for one day of shooting versus, much smaller when you're.
That's crazy. $50,000 to $75,000. Do you know what the biggest project you worked on was?
I think the biggest one for one day was 75.
Okay.
And that was one that I did for Target. And we ended up having to rent a bigger studio than when I was in a really big one. And then we put down.
You're shooting products or people?
People with products. And it was for their in-store signage for summer for like all their more outdoor stuff, like some of like the lawn chair furniture and all that. And laid out probably a 40-foot by 60-foot area of sod down on the floor.
Okay.
And then we had a massive blue sky backdrop behind that. And then we had, fake trees and hedges in there also. And then we brought in, I think it was 3 or 4 different models out of New York.
Yeah.
And then we had hair and makeup and then everybody else. And it was.
I suppose when you have a $75,000 budget, you can pretty much just build the set however you want.
Yep.
Spend $10,000 on the set or whatever it is.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, this is going to be the centerpiece of their, summer campaign in their store up on the walls in every Target across the country. So 75 for something that's going to be that visible and be everywhere.
They're probably thinking it's
not
chump change. You know what I mean? They're like, $75K, we got 50,000 stores around America, whatever it is.
And then they have, their national ad campaigns. So that's, drop in the bucket.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Super Bowl commercial. It's like 5 million or whatever it is. Yeah. Okay. So I want to talk about the business experience. And obviously you guys have the truck stop, you got Fastlane. Now you have Slideshow.
Yep.
How has being in the business, I know you took that hiatus of not taking photos. How has that business experience helped you with now Slideshow?
Oh, it's been really great because having a lot more experience as the person that's operating the business, so being more on the client side of things has been great to kind of inform that and see more of the needs of what the client would be versus being like, okay, this would be this really fun, creative approach to this that I want to do. And that I think will work good for their business.
Yeah.
Versus, okay, this is what the business really needs to highlight. This is what they need for their image and will kind of suit them best. And
need to pair the dreamer with the logical person.
Yeah. So it kind of helps, you look at both sides of the coin at the same time.
Okay.
So,
and is that something you realized once you kind of were in the business experience world?
Yeah, kind of more as I was in that world. And then as I transitioned back into doing more photography, like I realized that I would look at it now more as,
okay,
how does this fit that role?
Yeah.
Because it was, when I first picked up, shooting again and started doing some stuff, I was doing stuff immediately for our own businesses. So myself and my wife were largely the client.
Yeah.
So I had to make sure that it was serving what we needed to. And I wasn't just out there, trying to come out with outrageous creative ideas and then try and pitch them to somebody.
Yeah.
So
you have to look at the metrics of what is this actually going to do for the business rather than, well, this would be sick if we did this. Yeah.
Oh yeah. This would be, super fun and hilarious. I think a lot of people get a laugh out of it, but it's like, is it going to achieve that goal?
Is it going to sell more of this? Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's funny how you have to look at the coin on both sides of it. Because I remember when I started doing videos, that's what I wanted to do. I was like, let's just do crazy stuff for these clients. And I'm like, they don't really need the crazy stuff. Yeah. They don't want the crazy stuff.
And I'm not going to get paid for the crazy stuff.
Exactly.
Although you'll have some people that are like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. And those are the people you got to latch onto. Yeah. They're like, they're good with my crazy shit. Let's run with that. So right now you're doing a lot of photo stuff. Have you thought about adding any other skills? You've done some video stuff too, right?
I've done some video stuff. And then me and Adam Dias have worked together on some different video projects too. And so
I give Adam my credit for getting me into the video world. He's the first guy I ever shot with.
Yep.
I think he was episode 2 of the podcast.
Nice.
And I was filming him when he was doing, interview stuff for the races.
Okay.
So that's how I always say, I'm like, yep, Adam got me into video, and it's a slippery slope. We talked about that before. Once you get into it, you're fully into it.
You're either fully into it or you have fun for a little bit and then you're off to something else. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I've noticed is that a lot of time it's either you're a lifelong creative or you're a creative for like 5-10 years. And then you're like, oh, something completely different. Yeah. So question for you, dream person to photograph or a dream project. If you got unlimited budget to set it up, unlimited talent, whoever you want, what would that look like?
Dream person to photograph.
Or persons maybe.
Nick Cave would definitely be up there.
Okay.
Musician. Definitely Nick Cave. Springsteen would be good.
What would you have the shoot be? Would you just want to shoot them on stage, or would you want to set up in studio?
Definitely studio or location.
Okay.
I wouldn't be nearly as interested in as
event,
stage.
Yeah.
The event stuff has never been, kind of back to the whole wedding end of things. It's never really been my, cup of tea.
Yeah.
Like, there's a definite talent and art to it and everything. It's just never something that I've gotten a huge kick out of.
I don't like capturing live things.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I like it to be staged, set up, make sure I can control everything. Yeah. You never know what's going to happen on stage. It's like, I didn't know he was going to jump into the crowd. I missed it. Yeah. So that's when you miss things.
Exactly.
Do you have any idea so you have Springsteen, you have Cave. What would those images look like, do you think?
I don't know.
As far as a set, do you have any idea? Would you want to do it? I don't know. It's crazy.
No. Springsteen, I'm not sure. Springsteen, I definitely want to do something. Probably something with a classic car.
Okay. That'd be sweet.
And then simple location. Nick Cave. It would definitely have to be something simple, clean. I don't know, something maybe as simple as being out in more like a meadow and stuff like that. And he has a very distinct. He's almost always in a suit. And he has long, not kind of long black hair, not like to his shoulders or anything like that, but it's a very distinct look. And there's a definite energy and like melancholy to his music that would play well in something like that and balance. But yeah.
That'd be cool. I think the Springsteen one would be sweet. I always like photos that have classic cars in them for some reason. Like, that would look awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So growth of the business. A few more questions here for you. Where do you expect the business to go in the next few years? Where do you want it to go?
Next few years, I definitely want to start or keep on doing more things local for local businesses. Definitely want to try and expand and talk to, I know that there's some creative agencies down in Bismarck, talk to them. And then there's still some people that I know in the cities that, I've been talking back and forth with a little bit about maybe doing some stuff with them. So kind of letting some of that grow where I'm pursuing it, then kind of letting some of it happen as it does.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where the whole slideshow is a passion project for me. And it's something where I'm able to take on and do projects that I care about or with people that I like or concepts that I enjoy, but it's not a full-time make it or break it.
Yeah.
So
if you don't get a client tomorrow, it's not gonna be the end of the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
So looking back then, what is one lesson you wish you knew when you started that now that you wish you knew when you started your photography journey, your business journey, whatever it might be?
I would say definitely don't always rush everything.
Okay.
Like let some things kind of come as they will. And part of that is for me if you can work with great mentors and try and learn everything as you possibly can from these people that have the experience, and then use that as you're going forward, and not try and jump it too soon.
I was naive in the beginning where I didn't think mentors were necessary.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I can build this business on my own and I don't need to ask people questions and, I'll figure it out. And once you realize that just like asking these people things just unlocks such an exponential growth, it's crazy.
It's insane the difference that having like good mentors will be for you business wise and kind of in all aspects of life.
And I don't really, you don't know what you don't know.
No.
They might teach you something, tell you something. You're like, I had no idea about that.
Yeah. that. And then, it sounds too easy to say, but enjoying the process and taking things and the steps that they come instead of looking at the whole picture all the time. Because the whole picture, like if you say I'm here and I want to be there, and all you see is the gap in between versus being like, well, okay, I'm here and I want to be there. What's my next step forward?
Yeah.
Like, how do I move just one step forward from where I am? Not how do I get to the very end right now, but how do I move to the next piece of this?
Otherwise, without those steps, it's hard to even get to that last point.
It's overwhelming.
Because then you're just like, oh my gosh, there's so much. What do I do? But if you reverse engineer it to see these are the steps exactly where I need to get to point B, point A to point B, whatever it might be.
Oh, definitely.
So another question I have for you then, freelance versus business. You've done a lot of freelance stuff where it's maybe you and then you're bringing in a team.
Yep.
Is it something where you like to keep it on that freelance level where it's the one-on-one, or eventually do you want to, run a business where you have a team under you and you're kind of managing it, or what are you thinking there?
I think it'll largely stay freelance.
Yeah.
With us having the other businesses and everything else, I would definitely like to continue to grow this and have it be healthy and have it be a revenue stream and a creative stream for us. But I don't really see us having any full-time employees. Right now it's me, and then Krista, my wife, she helped out a ton on the writing of the stories.
Okay.
I kind of brought like my rough ideas, but writing has never been my strong suit. So it's something I really leaned hard on her for to help with that and kind of get my garble into something that was worth looking at.
I kind of like the idea of, I read this book. I don't know if it's still up there. Oh yeah, it's on the top shelf there. It's called Company of One, where it talks about every business you start, or if you start a business, it doesn't have to be the next Apple.
Yeah.
You don't have to create a Google, right? You can start a business and it can be a passion project, something on the side, or it can be something that is not this big conglomerate. You can be a freelance forever and be happy. Whereas I think a lot of people think I'm going to start a business and it has to be doing $2 million a year. Yeah. It's like, that's not true.
No. And it's one of those things where it's like, if I can keep on shooting for people locally and people in North Dakota and slowly grow some things and then do some other personal projects and things along the way and different portraits and all that, and it brings some stuff in, that's still a lot of fun. Yeah.
And it's cool when you get to that point where you don't necessarily have to take, you're like, oh, I got to shoot this. I don't want to. Where you get to the point where it's like, I take the projects that I want to take.
Yeah. When you're not operating out of fear or desperation.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's when decisions go awry.
Yeah. And you start grabbing onto things that maybe are not a good fit for you.
Yeah.
Things that you shouldn't be doing. And then they don't turn out great. And then that's out there. And, it kind of poisons the drinking water.
Yeah. And that's how you get into shooting weddings. You're like, I need to make money. I'll go shoot a wedding, do whatever I need to.
Yeah.
Go shoot a live event.
I've known people that shoot weddings, and it's hard work. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of time. Like, people don't realize like how much time goes into, meeting with the client several times before the event. Then you have the event itself, and then you have all the editing after the event, and then meeting with the clients again, then again after that, and then everything else that comes. And it's a grind. Like, there's a lot to it. I got a lot of respect for people that do it.
Yeah.
And
I think the editing aspect, that's what people don't understand, is it takes a long time to edit.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's not you just throw it in Lightroom, hit auto edit or whatever it is, and then you export it. It's like the people that, some people I'm sure do that, but the actual artists are in there, they're crafting, they're changing things on the face that you might never notice.
Yep.
But
Cleaning
they're making
backgrounds that are subtle and
exactly. Last question I got for you, Nic. What is your Mount Rushmore of business advice? 4 pieces of advice you'd give to someone that's getting into the professional field or starting a business?
I feel like we touched on that a little bit earlier. Finding good mentors.
Yep.
Definitely huge. Taking things as steps. Also definitely important. Not letting the whole big picture, slow you down or crush you. Realizing it doesn't come quick.
Yeah.
It's something that most things that you see, it might look like they popped up overnight.
Yeah.
But there's years of work behind whatever it was to get that person to there.
That's my favorite part, where people are like, it's an overnight success. I'm like, no, they've been doing it for 7 years.
Yeah. It's you don't know how many times they failed before this that they've learned from.
Yeah.
It might not have been this project, but So that's definitely part of it too.
That's 3. I need one more from you.
Try and enjoy it.
Yep.
You know, if you're not passionate about part of what you're doing, if it's who you're working with, what you're doing, how you're doing it, or that it forces you to learn or something, if you don't enjoy any of it and it's something that you're starting yourself, you might want to do something else.
Yeah. And I'd say try enough things until you figure out something that you actually do enjoy.
Yeah.
Just because you're doing it, you're like, this is my thing. It doesn't have to be your thing.
No, and it doesn't have to be your thing forever.
Yeah.
Like you might try something, you might get into it, you might figure out like, I thought this was going to be this, and it is not what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to stick with it for the rest.
Be okay with quitting it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Take the experience and do something else.
Nic, thank you very much for coming on the show. Really appreciate the conversation. Next time we'll have to do some aviation talk.
Yeah.
That is episode 72 of the Minot Business Podcast presented by Bennett Creative Media. Thank you guys again for listening or watching, and we will see you guys next week for episode 73.